Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Don't forget, if you like the video, click on like and subscribe and talk about it on chat lines, wherever it is your social media activities, and help us to grow and help more people. I'll talk to you soon.
Seb2311 says, how do you deal with setbacks? Because recently I've been doing better, but often get setbacks in HOCD. Well, what's the problem with setback? With the core of the thing that you've understood and you've been managing, as you said, you've been doing good because you understood that this is a fictitious and it's a malfunction in the signaling system of the brain. It's got nothing to do with your gender. It's got no changes going to be happening to you magically. You have understood, studied, and realized that this is a malfunction. This is a disorder. So you dealt with it on this basis, on the premise of education, knowing the researchers, psychologists' research, and Dr. Schwartz's work, Dr. Philipson's work, Dr. Jan Wayner's work, Dr. Speary, Dr. Penfield, Dr. Owen, Dr. Leibet, all their experiences in neuroscience and neurosurgery in the laboratory has shown to you beyond the shadow of the doubt and philosophical point of views of since Aristotle time, 1,000 years ago, till the modern time, until the modern science has proven all those discussions that you're not the brain and brain is not you and it malfunctions. And they've proven it. So on that basis, you've managed it. So setback is the same as the beginning, which means both are manageable the same way you managed this first time. You managed it already, so you know, based on your knowledge, this whole thing is a bullshit. But the brain cannot understand because brain lives in virtual world, and the thought, which is the base of all its understanding, when it hits it, and it has a glitch to stay on that thought and believe that thought, which is a problem. Thoughts are dime a dozen, 80, 90,000 thoughts a day comes in. A problem starts when you believe the thought, which is a glitch in the brain that allows a thought to turn into a belief. Just like many people believe in many things without any evidence of any sort, it just becomes a belief. You know, for example, religiosity OCD is when you believe anything to do with believing something has pretty much to do with the neurotransmitters, certain neurotransmitters, the real estate of the brain, the neurons, and the part of the brain that is involved, plus the gene called VMAT2, VMAT2 gene, plus all the other components, which I mentioned, the neurotransmitters and the real estate of the brain, where it's involved in that action, in that reaction, in that process, causes a belief to take place. Now, I don't understand, I don't know, I don't have enough knowledge on how that gene suddenly allows and helps for something to become believable without any evidence and sticks into your mind, into your brain. But nevertheless, this whole business is about believing a thought. Once we educate ourselves or understand how not to allow a thought on its own become a belief, in other words, we have a certain logic and understanding and prerequisites for belief to take shape, not that just because there's a gene active and the rest of the neurotransmitters and suddenly something becomes a belief. That's when we become delusional because we're believing everything that is out there because of the malfunction or the glitch, even though there is no evidence for it. Think about many things that we believed and later on found out it wasn't right. For example, for some people, maybe for some people, it's the other way around. But for some people, this whole COVID business, they believed it. They believed it wholeheartedly to the point that they went and got the shots. Later on, now, 3 years later, science have come out, says, God damn it, that thing was hazardous. You shouldn't have had it. But they believed. That's why they did it. But why did they believe? Fear element, the authorities who forced it on them, they were conditioned to believe authorities. The many things were involved to trigger that whole premise to allow a thought or an idea, a suggestion that was being uttered to them to turn into belief. But later on, today was vaccine. Other times in life have been many other things. Some people used to, in the old times, thousands and thousands of years ago, people used to believe a piece of rock or statue that they on their own made it by hand in their basement was their god. And they sacrificed for that piece of shit that they built with their own hand, as if it really was a god that had powers that it could help harvest and help healing, all that bullshit. But why? Because they believed it. No evidence. They believed it. That believing is the problem. In HOCD is the same. There's no evidence, but because the brain has the power to manipulate and affect and make the body react physically to something, then that physical reaction of the body, based on the power of the brain that has such power to make the body react, suddenly that physical reaction becomes an evidence for the person to think that the thought and the feelings were correct because I have a reaction physically in the actual physical world. Instead of understanding that the brain has the power to make the body react, but just because it has the power to make the body react, that does not mean that that suggestion was actually true or fact. Very simple. Just let me get this little ant on my screen out of the way. It's driving me nuts. So, for example, you can, as many times I've mentioned, imagine you're in France with a tour, and the tour guide has taken you to vineyard. It's out of season. All the grapes are green and sour like God knows what, like acid, sour. So he gave a cluster of grapes, green grapes, to everybody, and everybody puts in their mouth. Oh God, it just drops so much saliva and so sour. And then he backs it up with the lime, the cuts of lime, to give it to everybody. Everybody squeezes it in their mouth. And Jesus, all these saliva is secreted because it's so sour. Now, if you notice, if you really focus, right now you have saliva in your mouth. But there is no green grape. There is no lime. None of them is real. It's just a thought. And just because your body reacted and created saliva, that doesn't mean that there is actually lime and the green grapes, does it? No. But the brain has the power, turns the words into something that the body reacts to those words. It has that power. But that power and creating that reaction does not make what the suggestion or thought was to be a factual thing. This is the same as HOCD. It has the power to make the body react because it associates it with sex and this and that and makes a reaction. That's what body does. Body doesn't know what is being reacted. You can react a physical, sensual reaction to a horse's butt or something soft, a nice satin pillow. You rub it against yourself, you get aroused. So what does that mean? You're pilosexual or you're horsesexual. No, these are all connotations and associations that the brain makes in association to actual sex that your body is programmed to have. But none of them is any justification or evidence for the fact that you actually are interested in making love to a pillow or to a horse. So the brain's ability to make body react does not mean that what the suggestion is, in fact, has any merits. So you got to learn how to help the brain to distinguish between these sort of things and the thoughts and suggestions. And even though when it bodily reaction is created, to be able to know that this is what it is. And I'm not supposed to be interpreting as that has to do with my gender. So that same way of thinking will get you again another step forward until eventually all these becomes an automatic process happening in your brain as soon as some kind of a trigger or some kind of suggestion is made in that way. For example, if you focus on the 4 steps of neuroplasticity and rewiring the brain by Dr. Schwartz, which I've already mentioned it many times in the video that I've made for you guys, and explaining that, you can use that and remind yourself, educate yourself about 4 steps, and use that 4 steps to rewire yourself, rewire the brain in such matters. There's the video for it that I have explained what Dr. Schwartz has explained in his own video. And so you can benefit from it. Here's a link to that video. Sab, I hope that was helpful to you.
Subscribe on my channel, visit my channel, and go through the videos that you might be interested in. Mind@seekstruth.com is making it one step away to talk to me one-on-one on Skype and discuss what's concerning you. I'll talk to you soon.